It was a bad night for Brighton. In their first season in Europe, and they promised so much, of course, getting to the knockout stages. Brighton full of surprises and full of optimism on this European adventure, but they well and truly came unstuck last night in Rome. On and off the field. On the field, a 4-0 defeat for De Zerbi's men. De Rossi now in charge of Roma, of course. But off the field, problems. 2 Brighton fans stabbed pre-match. Brighton also reported objects being thrown at their fans by Roma fans, including bottles, coins and lighters. In spite of all that, the Brighton chief executive, Paul Barber, has stepped out of a meeting down at the Amex and joins us live. Paul, good morning.
Good morning, Jim.
Good morning to you. It paints a bit of a sorry picture of a sorry night, a night to forget, Paul. How do you look at it?
Well, I mean, obviously we're really disappointed. We got a bad result on the pitch. It's been challenging off the pitch, but you know, it's not really a night to forget because it's still a momentous time in our club's history, and we're delighted to be in the last 16 of the Europa League. And unfortunately, last night didn't go the way we hoped it would. We've still got 90 minutes of football at least left to play. We're certainly not giving up. We know it's a tall order to try and get this tie back around and to try and win it. But it's been a remarkable season for the club. And you know, we're very proud of what the players and the coaching staff have achieved. And I'm very proud of the way the fans conducted themselves last night, despite, you know, a lot of provocation at times. And it's disappointing when that happens. And obviously we're sad for the 2 young fans that were stabbed. Thankfully, the injuries are not serious and they were able to attend the game. But you just don't expect that to happen when you go away to follow your team for the first time in Europe. And, you know, they're not naive. We've given a lot of warnings about dangers and the issues. And thankfully, everyone eventually got home safe last night and today. And that's the most important thing of all.
I mean, back here, Paul, we were concerned when we started to hear stories of objects being thrown at Brighton fans by Roma supporters, including bottles, coins and lighters. There's Neil saying, I knew this would happen. Roma fans have been at it for years. When Leeds played there in 2000, they were flying up and down outside the stadium on scooters, attacking Leeds fans. Nothing's changed. I mean, did you fear there were going to be incidents like this, Paul?
We certainly made our fans aware that there could be incidents like this. And again, the vast majority of the fans, nearly 70,000 of them in the stadium last night, were not behaving like that. You know, let's be clear about that. And equally, I was in the city the night before the game, out and about, and people were warm and welcoming and friendly. So the vast majority of people in Rome, you know, did not behave the way, sadly, some people did. But unfortunately, it has happened for years and years and years in football. And, you know, if I go all the way back to my England days, nearly 25, 26 years ago, you know, we were seeing, hearing about and witnessing incidents like this even then. All we can do, and we have done, is to report it to the local authorities and the police, to UEFA. We actually took the UEFA delegate last night to the corner of the pitch to witness things being thrown at our fans. Our security staff literally led the UEFA delegate down to exactly where it was happening, asked him to film and take notes, and we'll see what happens. Because this gets reported time and time again, and yet time and time again it continues to happen. I don't know what the consequences will be for Roma. You know, it's sad because their executive team, their chief executive, their board, very, very nice people, very concerned about what happened last night and disappointed in their own fans. Certainly small numbers of them. But this happens too often. And unfortunately, English fans are far too often on the receiving end of it. And yet the smallest discrepancy at one of our stadiums in England, and UEFA come down on us like a ton of bricks. It's just disappointing that serious incidents don't seem to carry the same sort of weight.
I mean, Paul, I've already characterised it that way about the propensity for English fans to be treated in a certain way and the reaction when English fans are involved. And this is on Italian clubs. It's been a repeated set of circumstances within Italian clubs. But I also wanted to talk to you about the challenges it now presents for you for the return fixture. Given the temperature and the outlook and the publicity, does it make any difference to the way that you look at this game from an allocation point of view to Roma fans, through to the policing obligations and through to the overall responsibility you have of managing your fan base, given the fact the temperature will be quite high in the return leg?
Well, first of all, Simon, I think it's really important that people don't overreact to what happened to 2 of our fans and a small number that were had objects thrown at them. We don't want reprisals. We don't want people going out to get some kind of revenge.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The second thing, I've got the confidence in our security staff and Sussex Police that they'll manage the stadium as they always do to create a safe environment. There's going to be around 1,500 or so Roma fans travelling. We will know exactly who they are. They will only get into the stadium, after their identities have been checked, and we'll do our best to do that and keep people as safe as possible. But we've got to rely on the vast majority of fans coming to watch a football match, and it could be a really good football match. The way we play, Roberto will not accept a 4-0 defeat lightly. He will want the team to go out and give their best and try and get back into the tie. That could make for a really fantastic game, and I think the vast majority of fans will want to be in the stadium for the whole 90-plus minutes to see that, because anything could happen, as it can in any football match. And I just hope that it's a great night of football and a peaceful night, and that people enjoy the occasion at the Amex as they do time and time again when they come here, home fans and visiting fans.
I think probably, as happens in the past, Paul, Roma will probably bring a sizable number of security personnel themselves, will they not?
Yes, I think they will, Jim, and again, our staff will liaise with their club to make sure it's a safe environment for them as well. We don't want our club's name tarnished by a reprisal attack of some kind. That's not necessarily welcome or wanted. We just want the game of football to go ahead next Thursday safely and peacefully, and hopefully, as I say, it will be an exciting game for everybody in the stadium to witness.
Paul, post-match, Roberto did speak obviously about what had just happened on the field of play. His boys suffering a 4-0 defeat in the first leg. As you say, it's not over yet, but he had an interesting message with what he said. Have a listen.
We know very well the situation. I know very well the situation. I spoke with the owner a lot of time before February on the transfer market, and I told him the problems we are finding. But it's the first time Brighton plays this competition. Europa League Final 8 is a big level for us. And so we have to improve, to progress.
So, Paul, you might not be surprised that he's saying, well, I've spoken to the owner about how we can add to the squad, how we can strengthen the squad. Do you think that was a time for Roberto to throw that in? Or do you think, almost inevitably he'll say something like that off the back of a 4-0 defeat?
Of course, and I think, if Roberto's spoken to Tony once or twice about this, he's spoken to me about 100 times, so trust me, I know. And, I think you have to put it into the context of where we are. We're not going to use injuries as an excuse for last night because, we had a good team out and, we didn't perform on the night as well as we could have done. But we are missing Pedro, Mitoma, March, Milner, Hinchelwood, and Saito is only just coming back from injury. These are key players. These are big players for us. Our top goal scorer, arguably our top assist maker, a young defender that's come all the way through and done a brilliant job this season, scored goals in Europe and the Premier League. And then James Milner, who everyone knows would have added a huge amount of experience and guile to last night's performance. So these are not excuses, but they're facts. And of course, if those players have been available, then, adding players in the transfer window, whether it was last summer or at Christmas, wouldn't have felt quite so necessary. But this is football. This is the way it is. Other clubs have had injuries and they're getting through them, and we have to do the same. We haven't been out of the top 9 in the Premier League all season, despite 9, 10, 11 injuries at times. Roberto's done a fantastic job. Players have done a remarkable job. The fans have been brilliant all the way through because our form has been a little bit indifferent recently. But that's part and parcel of playing in 4 competitions for the first time and in Europe for the first time. We're still learning. We've got so much more to learn about playing football at this level. And, sometimes part of that learning is taking a beating as we took last night and building resilience from it and then moving forward as a club, together, for what comes. And that's Nottingham Forest on Sunday and a big game in the Premier League. And then 4 days later, Roma come back here and we've got a mountain to climb. But that's
Paul, as you might expect, I take a slightly dim view of a manager using an opportunity to leverage an owner into the press about transfer fees, but I won't expect you to observe on that because of the diplomacy you might need to deploy. But the expectations of Brighton now, do you feel that you're at this position with the evolution of the club where the expectations are now at a stage where there is almost a priced-in perspective that there's a distinct possibility that Brighton can go to Roma and get results, that Brighton are going to be at the top end of the Premier League. Does that weight upon you and Tony and change the direction of your thinking, given the narrative that's now being written, which is Brighton is a top side that produces top players that other people pay top money for and keep on doing, and they've got a top manager that other people covet?
It adds to the pressure, Simon, definitely, because of the weight of expectation. But I think that's what we've been doing this for, certainly in my case and Tony's case, for the last 12 years here. You know, we've wanted to bring on this level of expectation and pressure. It's what we have been aiming for. It's what we've been working towards. And now it's about learning to live with it. It's about learning to deal with it. And, you know, progress in any sport, let alone Premier League football or top-level football, in my experience, is never a straight line. There's always bumps in the road. And those bumps in the road test you. They require you to be resilient. And, you know, sometimes you have to take a big bump and see how you react to it. And this is one of our bigger bumps. It's disappointing and really disappointing. You know, we all came home on the plane in the early hours of this morning feeling pretty flat, pretty disappointed with what had happened. But at the same time, when you put it in perspective, 25 years ago, we were at the bottom of the pyramid. We were almost going out of the league. We had no stadium. We didn't have a training ground. We didn't have owners that at that point, you know, had the kind of resources that Tony's got to put us in a position we're in today. We're in a pretty good place right now. It's a great time to be a Brighton fan, and it's a great time to be an employee of the club. And we've just simply got to get over last night quickly, move forward on Sunday, and keep going, because that's what this club, you know, has done now for more than a dozen years. And we're enjoying the ride. And it's a journey, and there's going to be those bumps in the road.
Paul, it's just it's admirable, dare I say it, as a former player, hearing someone from the club so prominent coming out protecting. I'll always be eternally grateful for Brighton. Was there in '85, made my league debut back under the Chris Catlin regime all those years ago. But and this is a voice of wisdom coming from you, sort of putting things into perspective. But we kind of like seen great things from Brighton and lots of acquisitions, players gone. The players that you had out on that pitch, when it all comes down to it last night, you start to look at it as a neutral and think they should be doing more. They should be doing way more. You had a lot of players back. Even the substitutes are now, everything's just coming. That was a real shock across Europe, because we know here in the Premier League what a wonderful team Brighton is. And I'm not seeing a lot of results. If we go right back, I think it's 4 wins in 14 games. And I just feel there's I'm not sure where the inconsistency is, whether it's the workload or whether there's a loss of form. But right now, you need a massive result at the weekend, I think so, to turn it round. Everyone clamouring for your manager and your players. There's a lot of players here that other clubs would really want to buy. So I'm kind of troubled as to why is that not working right at the moment.
That's a nice question, Paul, for you, right at the end, isn't it?
Martin, and I thought we were mates going back to the end.
Well, I was about to thank you for coming on, Paul, but Keown comes in with
this is the reality. I mean,
no, it's a fair question. I mean, first of all, I'd say, you know, it's very easy for me to come on here, or any of us in this job to come on here when things are going well.
Yes.
And it's important though to come on when, you know, we've had a bad run and we've had 3 defeats in a week. That's a bad run by anyone's standards, and overall over the last couple of months, despite the injuries, you know, we haven't got as many wins as we would like. But there's a couple of factors here. First of all, I think there is the workload, and, you know, there has been a significant number of games in a relatively short period, but clubs at the top level have to deal with that. Secondly, the injuries have compounded that, because Roberto hasn't been able to rotate as quickly or as readily as he usually might with a full squad, which makes that workload even harder. And then in 1 or 2 cases, you've got players coming back from injury. Julio Enciso is a great example, who's a fantastic player, but he's young. He's come back from a big injury, and he's not yet played a full 90 minutes of football as part of that recovery. And yet we're relying on him last night to
great
really
talent, by the way.
Yes.
And a fantastic talent.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
It's a combination of things, and, you know, maybe 1 or 2 players are not in the best form that they've been in, you know, all season. But I think, you know, if you take out Pedro with 20+ goals and Mitoma with his goals and assists, Solly March was a big loss from way back at the start of the season, who is another goal scorer and provider. It's just a factor that we have to live with, because we haven't played in 4 competitions of this type ever. And it's tough. And the Thursday-Sunday routine and the travel, getting back at 2:30 this morning, is also tough. But they're not excuses. They're not excuses. They're just facts. And it's part of our learning process.
Oh, well done for answering our call and coming on off the back of a night like that. Next Thursday night, Paul, 8 o'clock kickoff. Beat them 5, beat them 6. It would be brilliant. Brilliant.
That would be great, wouldn't it? That would be great. But no, listen, thanks for having me on. And, we're sorry, for the fans that travelled last night because it wasn't what they hoped for or expected. But the reception they gave the players at the end, despite that, was fantastic. And I'm very grateful to them. So thank you to them.
What a man you are, Paul Barber. Thank you so much for joining us, Paul. Back to that meeting, my friend. Paul Barber, the Chief Executive of Brighton.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.